The difference between less and fewer may seem small, but using the wrong word can make a big difference in your speaking and your writing. Less is used to refer to a smaller amount of something that cannot be counted, while fewer is used to refer to a smaller amount of something that can be counted. Knowing when to use each word will help you speak and write more accurately and effectively. So let's take a closer look at the difference between less and fewer. Let's get into it. All right, less is used to refer to a smaller amount of something that cannot be counted, while fewer is used to refer to a smaller amount of something that can be counted, right? So, for example, you would use less to describe a smaller amount of sand, water, or air because these things are typically not counted. On the other hand, you would use fewer to describe a smaller amount of people, cars, or apples because these things can be counted. Okay, here are some examples of when to use less and fewer. All right, I have less money than I did yesterday. Less is used here because money is not typically counted. I need to drink less soda because it's bad for my health. Less is used here because soda is not typically counted. I have fewer books than I did last year. Fewer books is used here because books can be counted. There are fewer people at this party than expected. Fewer is used here because people can be counted. So in general, you should use less when you're referring to something that cannot be counted, and fewer when you are referring to something that can be counted. Keep in mind, however, that this is just a general rule and that there are always exceptions to consider. For example, even though time is not typically counted, we often use less to describe a smaller amount of time, as in, I have less time than I thought. I better hurry up. So in this case, less is used because it sounds more natural than fewer. All right, moving on to 10 more examples of when to use less or fewer, along with an explanation of why each word is used in the sentence. I have less homework tonight than I did last night. Less is used here because homework is not typically counted. I need to eat less junk food. Less is used here because junk food is not typically counted. I have fewer pencils than I did last week. Fewer is used here because pencils can be counted. There are fewer cars in the parking lot than there were yesterday. Fewer is used here because cars can be counted. I need to spend less time watching TV. Less is used here because time is not typically counted. I have less energy than I did this morning. Less is used here because energy is not typically counted. I have fewer things to do on my to-do list than I did last week. Fewer is used here because things can be counted. I need to drink less water. Less is used here because water is not typically counted. And this is not something people would normally say, and I would not say this at all. But it's an example for you to have. There are fewer clouds in the sky than there were earlier today. Fewer is used here because clouds can be counted. I have fewer friends than I did last year. Uh-oh. Fewer is used here because friends can be counted. All right, so these are just some examples They're not from my personal life, obviously, but I wanted to give you a sense of some examples that you might hear or that you might use yourself. And again, we're contrasting and showing the difference between fewer and less. And so as you can see from these examples, the main factor in determining whether to use less or fewer is whether the thing being referred to can be counted or not. If it can be counted, use fewer. If it cannot be counted, use less. It's important to use the correct word in a sentence because using the wrong word might make a sentence sound awkward or incorrect. So just something to keep in mind. Are you ready to put this into practice? If you would like to test your knowledge of less and fewer, then I encourage you to take the quiz that I have for you. And you'll be able to access that resource when you join my private community, Explearning Academy. So if you would like this quiz, the discussion that goes along with it, and an opportunity to submit questions or ask me live in real time, then you can sign up for my community, Explearning Academy, using the link down below. I hope to see you there. All right, so in conclusion, less and fewer are two words that are often used to describe a smaller amount of something. Less is used when referring to something that cannot be counted, while fewer is used when referring to something that can be counted. By remembering this simple rule and using these words correctly in your writing and speaking, you can communicate more effectively and accurately. So the next time you're unsure whether to use less or fewer, just stop and think about whether the thing you're referring to can be counted or not, and you'll know which word to use. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really am happy that you're here, and I hope that you sign up for the community where you'll join me every day to work on your English language skills, your communication, and your social fluency. So I'll see you there, I hope. And also, if you really love this lesson, then please be sure to share it with anyone who is interested in improving their English communication skills and social fluency, and also show this lesson some love by showing it love on the podcast, by showing it love on the YouTube channel, and by showing it love on the blog post. All right, I will see you soon. Bye for now.